Well, if you believe police and forensic experts, Alex Murdaugh's alibi is falling apart faster than the fear that spread when his wife and son, Paul, were maliciously killed in their South Carolina ranch. Now, police say the killer was none other than the husband and father, Alex Murdaugh. Hey everybody, it's Mike from Profiling Evil, and welcome to this special edition on the Alex Murdaugh case. Now, I'm preparing to leave my office in Washington, D.C., and I thought I'd take a moment and share with you a little bit of information from yesterday's trial. I joined Nancy Grace on Fox Nation during the lunch hour just to give kind of a minute-by-minute, even second-by-second revelation of what police were stitching together after a year of painstaking forensic analysis. Now, the analysis was on Murdaugh's company vehicle, and police contend that the vehicle was used by Murdaugh when he murdered his wife, Maggie, and their son, Paul. I thought you might enjoy just a little bit of the behind-the-scenes imagery as I talked with Nancy on Fox News. I was involved in a bunch of meetings this week at the federal level, and Fox called me and said, hey, can you slip out for a minute and stop in the station and do a quick interview? Well, I told them I was too busy, but if they would spend the money and send one of their special vans over to the location where the meetings were being held, I'd slip out during the lunch hour and do a little bit of video. Well, believe it or not, they did so, and they sent a mobile studio to me. So this video came as I sat at 1300 Pennsylvania Avenue inside Fox's mobile studio. Now, I captured some of it with my own iPhone, and so I'm going to just kind of share some behind-the-scenes stuff, thinking maybe you're interested. Heck, if you're not, then hang up. But if you are liking this, hit the like and subscribe button. Please give some thumbs up. I'm not getting the thumbs up, and frankly, that makes a big difference, so please do that. Now, one of the first questions out of Nancy's mouth was, why on earth did it take law enforcement a year to put this forensic information together? Was that why it took so long to get the arrest affidavit put together and charge this guy? Is that why it took so long to get to trial? Well, our discussion turned to the timeline that was shared in court yesterday, and this single opportunity that law enforcement had to bring the case to trial. Now, you're only getting one side of the story, and the defense is still to come. But let's catch my thoughts from inside that mobile studio, courtesy of Fox News. And folks, go over and watch the entire interview so you get Nancy's questions, my responses, the entire thing. But if not, you're only getting mine, so you don't get to hear her question. But I'll kind of try to explain what those are. First question, why did it take so long? Let's watch. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure that's placed on investigators and, frankly, the administrations to move the case along faster. But I think you said it before, Nancy. I've heard it many times. You really only get one dip at the well when you take this thing to trial. So you got to have all these pieces and parts lined up, and you got to have them ready to go in a way that the jury can understand them, because all it takes is a couple of people in some places, one in many, to say, I just don't buy it. Well, part of our discussion then turned to the testimony that was given by Alex's closest friend. That friend indicated that Alex was acting so sincere, so sincerely distraught at the time he met with him just hours after Maggie and Paul's bodies were discovered, that he didn't think he was faking anything. In fact, he's shocked that Murdaugh actually is considered the killer, and yet all the evidence is pointing that way. He said that they were also surrounded by a whole bunch of lawyer friends, and that brought up some interesting questions in just a couple of minutes. But today, I thought that good friend of Alex Murdaugh's was clearly in the prosecution's camp, and that he thinks Alex Murdaugh was one heck of an actor. Now, we also talked for just a moment about this forensic evidence that placed Murdaugh's vehicle in and out of gear multiple times, sometimes within seconds of each transfer. Let's listen to my response. I remember sitting with professors at Harvard University talking about this transitional thing. And when people finally make a decision, there's a sense of calmness that comes. Even completing something like this might bring that calmness. And yet I think still, when you look at some of the other evidence, especially the moving the vehicle in and out of park so many times, Nancy, I've said it a couple of times, I think that is so indicative of the disorganization that's starting to happen as the reality of what he's gone through, as the adrenaline starts to drain off. Those kinds of things are going to play, and I hope as this thing goes forward and as we start looking at cellular location and other things in the case. Well, I apologize for the audio. You know, it's kind of wacky doing it and trying to get it all set up. And frankly, the camera was a ways away, so the audio isn't really great. But to support all of this wacky forensic evidence that shows how many times the vehicle went into gear and back into park, I want to quickly retrace the timeline. The evidence suggests that all of this in the forensic piece that we're looking at started around 8:44 p.m. That's when Paul took that video of the dog trying to get something on the tail, and many people are testifying now that Alex could be heard in the background. Blows his alibi out of the water that he wasn't there. Now, it's at that same time that Maggie, Paul's mom, Alex's wife, was receiving texts from her sister-in-law about other kinds of family issues, and frankly, encouraging Maggie to do something kind of happy and fun. Now, there was no discussion in those texts, but there was testimony that came out about Maggie seeking the advice of a divorce lawyer a few days earlier than all of this happening. Well, about 19 minutes later, Murdaugh again starts the vehicle. A minute later, he makes a phone call to Maggie's phone. So the big question is whether all of this was staged so that Murdaugh could begin building an alibi that he was trying to call Maggie. And interestingly enough, 3 minutes later, the orientation on Maggie's phone changes. Now, it's believed that she's dead at this point, and there's a missed call to Alex from Maggie. Again, this is something prosecutors are saying that Murdaugh did to build an alibi that he wasn't there. Now, at the same time, Murdaugh's vehicle is going in and out of gear, and over the next 3 to 10 minutes, it's moving around. It's at 9:08 p.m. when Maggie sends a text back to Alex. Again, they believe it was Murdaugh, Alex, doing all of this, to the effect of saying, hey, Maggie, I'm going to go over and check on Mom. At 9:22, his vehicle is put into gear again. 21 minutes later, he's back at his parents' home. And if we look at this map, it fits perfectly with the distance between the Moselle property and parents' home. Now, it's about 10 o'clock when Murdaugh makes the drive back, another 16 to 18 minute drive to the Moselle home. And by the way, I might have these flip-flops, so don't send me a note and tell me I'm completely off base. One was about 16 minutes, one-way trip. The other one was 21. In fact, it was the 21-minute one is believed to be after the murders, because that's when it's also believed that the phone of Maggie's was thrown out the window. And you might remember my video from a few days ago. Was it thrown like a frisbee or end over end? I'll let you go back and answer that. But you can see by watching this full timeline, I'm going to run it down the right side of the screen here, everything that happened. You can go back and study it a little closer if you want to. But by the time police arrive, they are so busy at the crime scene that Murdaugh's allowed to make some additional calls, and he's getting a hold of people. Other people are calling friends and family, and folks are showing up at the Moselle property to comfort Alex. And again, at that same time, a number of attorneys, some say as many as 7 or 8 attorneys that are all friends of Alex Murdaugh's, show up at the same time. And what are they doing? They're telling Alex Murdaugh, don't talk to the cops. Now that led to a really interesting question that actually made me break out laughing. And I haven't done this on the news very often in my life, but Nancy Grace asked me if I'd ever been to a crime scene where there were 7 or 8 attorneys, and all of those attorneys were telling the person who was maybe a person of interest that he ought to not talk to police. Listen to my response.
I don't think I can remember a time that happened, but I thought it was interesting that they said, yeah, we're going to encourage him not to talk to police, yet he still did.
Well, folks, I got to run and catch a plane and try to get home and enjoy the weekend with my family. And I hope that you're going to all do the same. But as I run out the door, I hope you'll take this final segment that I did with Nancy Grace, where she asked me if I really believed that Alex Murdaugh might try to take the stand and testify in his own behalf. Let's watch that.
Exactly, and you know, it really makes me wonder that if it's an arrogance thing, knowing what he probably should do from a legal standpoint, getting that counsel from other lawyers in the room, deciding he's going to do it anyway. Is it an arrogance that he thinks he can talk his way through it, or is it that he actually is innocent? But it makes me really wonder if this guy is going to have the arrogance to go in and try to testify in this case.
Well, so what do you think, folks? Do you think Alex Murdaugh is going to take the stand, that he's arrogant enough to try to take the stand and convince people that he had nothing to do with his wife's death or the death of his son? Or are his attorneys going to chain him down to a chair and make him stay still? This one's going to be interesting to watch. I am going to be dumbfounded if he's not found guilty in these homicides. But you know what? The defense is getting ready to bring out their case, and I suspect they're going to come out swinging. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the week ahead. Hey, thanks so much for supporting Profiling Evil. Hit that like and subscribe button, and please share Profiling Evil with your friends. We love to grow, and we love having your support. And from Washington, D.C., I hope that y'all have a great evening and that everything in your life is going the way that you'd like it. Thanks so much for supporting us, and we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.